everyone you know is crushing it except for you. She's got set up in the corner. Hello. Get that bread, girly. Go get the bacon for your family. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is what? These women have got to be stopped. Greetings from Tour Prep Central. If you're listening, I am surrounded by boxes. It's your girl, Kelsey, rom-com author, comedian, podcaster, bestie. If this is your first time watching, I'm excited that you're here. We are going to talk about why it is that we always feel like we are behind and failing and sucking it up, especially if you're a busy mom, a midlife mom, a woman in her 30s or 40s. Maybe you feel like everyone is crushing it except for you. We're going to talk about why we all feel that way today. And I forgot to mention what's in the boxes. If you come to the tour that is celebrating my new book, Happy Christmas, which is like a Hallmark Christmas rom-com mixed with a hug and hot cocoa put into a novel. I'm celebrating this with a book tour test. In these boxes are items for the swag bags. You get a little goodie bag if you come out. You're entered to win a giveaway if you come out. So I hope to see you there. But let's dive into the content for today. The Happy Tears podcast is a comedy show. It's uplifting, it's inspiring, it's lighthearted. So let's dive into when everyone else is crushing it except for you. Okay, I am very feisty today. I am fired up about this topic because I have done some deep diving on the internet, which is always not advised. 0 out of 5 stars, not recommended. But if you listen to the Happy Tears podcast, if you watch my YouTube channel, I want it to be worth your time. I want you to feel like, oh, finally somebody said what I've been thinking and feeling, articulated it for me. I hope I'm pushing you to like be better, work on some of your goals. You're pushing yourself to be your best self, but also we're still taking naps. We're not hardcore hustle culture here. We're hustle adjacent, but I want it to be worth your time. And so I was researching, what are other people talking about? What are other shows saying? What are other YouTubers doing? And I have figured out that there's basically 3 types. Genre number 1, we've got your homestead and homeschool and homemade everything, top to bottom. These women look like they're making their own clothes. They are doing it all with the chickens and the goats and the, churning their butter, grinding their wheat dingleberries to make their own wheat bread, which we've talked about. These women are doing all of the homemaker things. Everything is idyllic. It's peaceful, it's calm, it's slow sunrises, it's beeswax candles being lit in slow motion. The children are frolicking through the large backyard that has, unkempt wildflowers growing on the edges. That is pretty much number 1. Number 2, CEO culture, boss babe culture, female entrepreneurs that are just like crushing it and everything is like brand names and very aesthetic. They are fit, they are gorgeous, and they are like just, owning their day. They're owning their week. Some of them are moms, some of them aren't, but definitely, the like goal getter, aspiring to be, be all, do all, high income, high impact type woman. Okay. And then the third genre is these huge podcasts and YouTube channels. And I mean huge, where it is like self-empowerment. It's a self-help podcast. She's teaching you how to be your best self, to overcome all your obstacles. And she is a full 22 years old. What? These women have got to be stopped, right? Like, I'm a girl's girl, but no, I'm kidding. I don't mean that. There's room for everyone. There's space for everybody. The short version of like what we could sum up today's podcast is like the, tried and true, like comparison is the thief of joy, and watch what you're watching online because it affects you. What are you looking at? What are you scrolling by? All that stuff. But I want to dig a little bit deeper than that, because those are things that we all know and we're all still scrolling anyway. Aren't we? And let me tell you what you're not going to hear. You're not going to hear stupid advice like you need to spend, don't, get a flip phone. Don't have an iPhone. Don't wake up with your phone. I'm sorry. My phone is my alarm clock. My phone is my life. Most people in 2025 are not giving up their smartphone. I'm not telling you give up Instagram, quit social media. That's not what we're talking about today. Although those people might be happier and like more power to them. So with these main 3 genres I've found on YouTube, Instagram, podcasts, like these are the 3 big buckets I've found of content. I want to talk about 3 things. In us, the normies, the normal people, we feel like we are failing when we're looking at these 3 big groups, which tend to dominate our news feeds. And why we feel like garbage, I want to say, number 1, we're being lied to. And I don't mean that every single influencer, podcaster, YouTuber, whatever is not genuine. But in the olden days, think about the 80s and 90s, okay? We had Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous.
So get ready to party hardy with all your favorite stars on the all-new Lifestyles.
Sunday night at 8 on Channel 9.
We had MTV Cribs. We had like in-depth 60-minute interviews, on like, NBC at night of like their real lives or getting to really connect with a celebrity, right? Like it was so rare that you would like go to Oprah's home. And we understood, we normies got that they were living a different kind of life. They were celebrities. They were the exception. They were separated from reality, right? Now those lines are totally blurred because social media came along and people realized like they can become influencers and they can become quasi-famous and also turn it into a business and really help their family and, contribute to like bring in some income, and all of that is fine. Totally get it. But let's break down what I mean. Let's go with the homesteaders, homeschoolers, homemakers. Okay. So I was watching, it's very calming, very comforting. And she's like reading her Bible and quoting her scripture and talking about, intentional parenting and very peaceful. And she's, there's no plastic, everything is glass. And, her children are running by happily and everything is perfect and everything is being recorded by a camera she's got set up in the corner. Hello. She is showing this slow life, and maybe she lives a slow life. Maybe these women are living slow lives, but they're also documenting so much of it. At nighttime, guess what they're doing? Hustling to edit those videos and put them together and put them on the internet. And then selling courses or selling planners or guides or getting brand sponsorship, which get that bread, girl. Get that bread, girly. Go get the bacon for your family. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is that there's this disconnect of this, glamorized, idealized, romanticized farmhouse life when they are hustling to record all of that, film it, edit it, put it up. Same thing with the farmers and the gardeners. Like they are not only doing all of the work of the gardening and the farming and the raising of cows or whatever, fainting goats is what I'd like to have. The little ones that just fall over all the time. Would love that.
More commonly known as stiff-leg goats, wooden-leg goats, nervous goats.
They're also filming it all and then getting on their laptop, editing it, uploading it, watching videos about how to go viral or how to get more followers on YouTube. That is the reality. And now we're that's being blurred. The lines are being blurred. On the other side, those CEOs, if you follow a boss babe, awesome. You get inspired, you get pumped up. Yes, I can do more and be more and make more money. Great. But are you making sure you're following someone who's at least being honest about the fact that they have a gardener and a nanny, or their mom comes 3 days a week to watch the kids, or, their kids are in daycare, or their kids are, in I don't know. Some of these are like, what are your kids in boarding school? When do you see your kids? And some of them aren't moms. Again, that's fine. But, that's a totally different life than you. If you are a mom, we need to, make sure that we're following someone who's kind of showing the whole picture, explaining the whole thing. Otherwise, we're just being duped a little bit, I think. As for the young people, I threw some shade about the young people. Don't watch them because you will feel self-conscious about your wrinkles and your pores, your figure maybe. I mean, these girls are very put together. Their metabolism is still functioning. They started doing a skincare routine when they were 5. And I was, kind of giving them some crap. And then she came on and she was like, guys, I really want to read one of the reviews from my listener on iTunes, left a 5-star review. Then she reads this review, and the reviewer, who loves her and is like, your podcast changed my life, is 14 years old. So there's space for that, right? She is leading the young folk coming up behind her. And heck yeah, I'd rather have young people listening to podcasts about self-help and how to be their best selves instead of some of the other crap that's on the internet, some of the other options that they have that's total garbage, right? But we're going to avoid, unless you are 22, we're probably going to avoid looking at that and listening to that. You know, we want to listen to people who've seen some things. I was just deep into YouTube and listening to podcasts and just thinking about like, wow, everybody gets that people are only showing the highlight reel. They're not talking, you know, about their struggles that much. Or if they are, it's in a way that gets a lot of clicks and has a very, you know, intriguing headline. But I feel like we've forgotten that these people are, you know, living a different life and documenting their life and editing their life, filming everything, packaging it up, putting it together and putting it online. Like this is the olden days where that person is like Julia Roberts. We're not her. We're not going to be her. There's a disconnect there. Okay. No, we're not. Even if we started doing all the things that she's doing, living that kind of lifestyle, it's not going to look as pretty. It's not going to be as staged and as photo perfect and as calm and won't have music in the background. You know, like it's not going to be the same because they are packaging it up for entertainment. Number 2, I'm going to use myself as an example. We are now a big family, 6 kids, 8 total. We're large and in charge. You know, we're coming through. People see us from a mile away. It is a lot. And so then I find myself looking at YouTubers and podcasters and Instagrammers who are big families and who will write books or have podcasts and who are homeschooling and all that stuff. But they're big families, you know, their kids are a lot older. And so I'm looking at how she's doing X, Y, and Z and forgetting that when her kids were 0, 1, 3, 4 years old, she was not doing any of that, right? So not only are you forgetting your own season of life, but you're forgetting that this person is not in the same season anymore. Once we find someone that we look up to, we admire, we're reading their books, we're listening to their advice, guess what? They had to go through the trenches to be able to give the advice. I'm going to say that again. They had to go through it. Okay, they went through it. What you're going through now, you're listening to them and what advice they have about it because they're past it. They're over it. So it's easy for us to be like, well, I can't do that in my season of life. Well, neither was she. Like we're looking at them like, oh, well, she's, you know, making her own bed with her wheat dingleberries. Well, she wasn't. Back then, when she was still figuring things out. Maybe you really want to, you know, have your own business, be an entrepreneur, go be an influencer, start your Etsy shop or whatever. And you're following this mom who's crushing it on Etsy. Well, was she when she had tiny kids, when she just got started? No, right? You have to realize the season of life that you're in. And remember from last week, what God has put right in front of you to do right now is the most important thing, and it is what you're supposed to be doing, and it is the season that you're supposed to be in. And it's fine to look at people who are ahead, who are in another season, as long as you can realize they were once where you are. You're going to have to, you know, travel the distance that they went. Does this make sense? To me, it helped me to realize, especially another thing with big family living, a lot of them do homeschool, and I understand why. Let me update you on our homeschooling journey, because now we've been in private school for a few weeks. And one of the things that they say, the reason to homeschool, okay, this was in my head before, like, well, if you send your kids out and they go to school all day, they come home and when you get them, it's like a couple hours before bedtime and they're exhausted and they're grumpy and everybody's whiny and fighting. Fact check, true. That is a fact. And that is something that I am struggling with and working on. Like, how can we have peace and harmony and fun and joy when we're all exhausted and we really only have like 4 to 7 p.m.? It is hard. It is a challenge. And so I'm looking at these large families, and a lot of them do homeschool because they didn't want the rat race of all the different teachers and all the different sports and everyone's just different activities, which I understand. And when our kids start doing more activities and get a little bit older, who knows how we're going to handle that. But those people, they are years ahead of me in terms of how long they've had a big family, how old their kids are, and they don't have the layer of adoption on top. which is, I can't even explain. I mean, it adds so much emotionally, spiritually, mentally, sometimes physically. There is a lot going on when you put adoption on top. So I need to realize that person is ahead of me and I'm looking towards them and I admire them, but they weren't having it all together back when they had a 1.5-year-old. Okay. Now, number 3 is the most interesting point. And before I get to it, I need to remind you that the Happy Tears podcast is brought to you by my books. Please buy them. I want to talk to you today about this book and why I wrote it.
Things I Should Have Said is a hilarious, swoony, steamy, reverse grumpy sunshine rom-com, which means normally when you read a rom-com, he's the grump and she's the sunshine. Well, when I wrote this book, I was inspired because I was hundreds, literally, of romance novels into the Great Depression. And I realized, you know what? I'm reading all these books and I don't really see me because in my relationship, I am the grump. I am anxious and grumpy and introverted and I want to be home, and my husband is sunshiny and like makes friends everywhere he goes. So this story is told in New York. She is an artist and he is a software developer. Again, this is very autobiographical. It's kind of embarrassing. They meet on a plane and then months later he shows up at her art show. And of course, then she's smitten and he's like the perfect compliment to her. She's from Oklahoma. He's from Texas. So many funny things happen. Just like all of my novels, there's a lot of character development, but it's lighthearted. It's fun. It's hot. You will love it. And I do push this book a lot because it's first in series. And I cannot tell you how many messages I get where someone started with Things I Should Have Said, and then they go through and read all 6 books in the series in 1 week. These are quick reads. So next time you're going on vacation, next time you have a day off, pick up Things I Should Have Said.
I also want to remind you that I need you to tell people about the show. So if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, hit subscribe, send the show to a friend. If you're listening, take a screen grab, text it to a friend you think will like this episode. You know, if we want to keep these things going, if we want to keep the good times rolling, then we need to share with friends. And again, the goal is that someday I put all of these children in an RV and we go on tour and there's stand-up comedy and book signings city to city to city, maybe over the summer. That would be really fun. By the way, my children are very invested in this idea because I mentioned it once. And now it's like, when are we going to do a summer RV book tour, stand-up comedy tour, Mom? Well, that's not going to happen until we hit about 500,000 subscribers. And I am a long way off, so I need your help. So if you like this show, buy my books. The books fund the show, and also please tell your friends. Now, number 3, we're digging into why we feel so behind, why we feel like we're failing. So obviously we've covered, well, we're listening to, watching, and following people who are, you know, only showing the idealized version for clicks and sponsorships, and they're, you know, not showing the nitty gritty as much, or we are not, you know, just keeping that in our minds. Then 2, you know, we are usually looking up to people in a totally different season of life. And so, and when that's good, you know, you want to look up to someone, you want to have role models and mentors, but we forget they weren't crushing it back in the day. And number 3, what about our peers?
I called this emergency PTA meeting to address an issue that affects the safety of our children.
Terrorism.
The bake sale.
What about people around us? That chick at church, the girl you went to high school with, the friend of a friend, or one of your best friends, or everyone in your friend group. Everyone you know is crushing it except for you. What if that's how you feel? Hone in right now on that one person you're thinking of. That one person who just, she is it. And you're, you know, you live in the same town or you have the same online friends, you see her stuff all the time. She is killing it and you aren't. So what? So what? First of all, does it matter? Second of all, why is she triggering the crud out of you? Those kinds of feelings can really help us figure out what's bothering us in our own lives. Okay. So maybe it all comes down to the fact that she's skinny. I mean, hello, that was me for years. Like, I just was like, ugh, not only is she a great mom, but she's also super thin and fit and works out all the time. Well, maybe it's time to strap on those running shoes, put on your weighted vest, get out there walking. You know, maybe it's time. Quit putting it off because it's clearly bothering you. It's there with you every day, all day, every day, nagging you. Maybe it is someone who's homeschooling and you're not homeschooling. Girl, you start Googling curriculum, start figuring out how to make it work. Maybe you're looking at someone who is, you know, has a great side hustle that they're building. Maybe they are, you know, selling Young Living, or they are, doing some sort of consulting or something, life coaching, whatever it is, why does it make you so mad? What is it revealing that you want? Maybe you want to get back to writing. Like maybe I make you mad.
You want to light a candle, put on some music, pour yourself a cup of tea, and get totally lost in fictional worlds all day long. And I got to tell you, it is pretty awesome. And you're in luck. I get asked about this a lot. And so I have opened up the waiting list for what I am calling the Swoony Success System. So if you're interested in becoming a full-time writer, go to kelseyhumphreys.com/writing and get on the waiting list.
You know, we talked last week about feeling like we missed our calling. It could be that you want to get back to singing at church. You want to get back into sewing, teaching. You want to start volunteering your time somewhere. And that woman who bugs you online is doing it. And you think, I want to be doing that too. Or maybe you don't even consciously think it, but subconsciously you get all upset. And that's why. So I'm not going to be the person, like I said, I'm not going to tell you, well, just quit Instagram. Maybe you should pray about it. Maybe you should. But I think we can use those feelings, those frustrations to help us learn like what's going on here. What's going on in my crazy brain? What is making me so mad? And of course, if you sit down with that person and you are like, sharing and it becomes a safe space, they're going to tell you all their problems. If you make it a safe space for baggage, they will unzip it all and take it all out for you. I'm sure their kids are fighting or they're in crushing debt or, their marriage is struggling behind the scenes. Like everybody's got stuff, right? So that person in real life probably has stuff. And even if they don't, so what? What does that mean for you? What does that have to do with you? What is that telling you about you? I want us to crush it in our current season of life and prepare for the next season. Work on some goals, some side hustles, some projects, some things that will be fulfilling, right? We're not just talking about success. We're talking about feeling fulfilled. When you're online, when you're scrolling, think about these few things. Are you being lied to? Are they in a totally different season? And what are they telling you about what you want out of your life? That's it for this episode. And remember, if you happen to see me out in the wild, maybe between 4 and 7 p.m., I'm at the park alone with all 6 of my kids, and all 7 of us are crying. Those are happy tears.